Welcome to Arlington Public News. I'm Brenda Mahoney.
And I'm Paul Werlin. Thanks for joining us. In this edition of APN, Town Meeting 2017 has closed. We'll take a look at the yays, the nays, and the issues still up for debate.
And the race to fill the 4th Middlesex State Senate seat moves to the next phase.
And giving Herring a step up the ladder. That and more up next. Please stay with us. In tonight's Snapshot, James Milan brings us the latest on local politics and economic development. Hi, James. What's going on?
Thanks, Paul. 3 candidates have made it past the first major hurdle in the 4th Middlesex District Senate seat special election. Democrats Sean Garbely, Cindy Friedman, and Marianne Stewart each turned in nomination papers by the Tuesday deadline. No Republicans have jumped into the race. All 3 candidates have been jockeying for endorsements. Representative Garbely has the support of the Massachusetts Nurses Association and Arlington's local 1297 firefighters. The family of Ken Donnelly, whose death has prompted this special election, is backing Ms. Friedman. Individual selectmen, school committee members, and local officials are also making their preferences known. With no Republican challengers, the winner of the Democratic primary on June 25th will be assured the seat. The deadline to register to vote in the primary is June 7th. Visit sec.state.ma.us or visit Arlington Town Hall for more information or to register. Arlington will not be joining the fight against a housing complex along Route 2 in Cambridge. The City of Cambridge recently okayed a 320-unit residential complex for the site of the Lanes and Games Bowling Alley and Gateway Hotel just across Route 2 from Arlington. But some Cambridge and Arlington residents are concerned about increased traffic and ongoing flooding in the area. They asked the Arlington Redevelopment Board to oppose the project at their May 15th meeting. The ARB decided not to appeal the city's plan, but will keep a close eye on the project.
I don't see flooding as something that is going to be increased, at least on reading this.
I think I agree with that.
I think that there is going to be more traffic, although if their numbers are correct, it's not going to be that much more.
The Mugar property sits directly across from Lanes and Games on the Arlington side of Route 2. That appeal challenges the state's affordable housing calculations as applied to Arlington. Town officials have long been concerned over flooding of the area as some of the land contains wetlands. Arlington's planning department is looking to work more closely with the City of Cambridge on any future development of the Alewife area. Director Jenny Raitt telling APN that some of the concerns about flooding and traffic go beyond the Lanes and Games project. With your latest Arlington Snapshot, I'm James Milan. Back to you, Brenda.
Thanks, James. Well, Town Meeting 2017 is in the books, and it went down as an historic one, with changes being proposed to the treasurer's position. Debate ensued on both sides, as well as discussions on an increase in funding for schools and the move to become a sanctuary town. Here's a wrap-up. Town Meeting, a centuries-old tradition.
I do solemnly swear that I'll faithfully and impartially perform the duties incumbent upon me as a town meeting member.
In Arlington, making history itself, voting to convert the role of treasurer from elected to appointed. New Treasurer Dean Carmen ran unopposed for the office. With support of the Board of Selectmen and Town Manager, he is behind the push to take the position into what they call the modern era.
I think what we're saying is we want an appointment process whereby we have a professional treasurer collector that's hired through a professional recruitment process.
Something longtime elected former Treasurer John Billafor is in favor of, according to his daughter.
He also stressed that when he was a young man starting out in town as an attorney, he was very interested in municipal government and excited by the idea of such a position. But he really feels and sees that things have changed, and it seems less and less likely that Arlington residents will be available or willing to leave their current well-established jobs to run for an office.
The most recent previous town treasurer, Stephen Gilligan, however, sees it as a loss of a position answerable to the people.
The treasurer is the banker of the town. The treasurer has no responsibility or authority for spending money, but in protecting and being the custodian of the town's funds. And yet you are being asked to take the right of the voters away.
Although town meeting approved the action, final say lies with a future town-wide referendum.
Next on the list.
Session 4 began with a performance by the Arlington High School Madrigal Singers, showcasing one of the benefits of the town's largest budget, that of the schools.
Support for students for social emotional growth, additional teachers at all levels.
School Superintendent Kathleen Bodie asking for $66 million, an increase of $3.5 million over last year. $1 million of it needed for resources to deal with increased enrollment. In addition to approving that budget, town meeting members were asked to appropriate previously approved funds to reopen the Gibbs School for 6th graders and $3 million for a 6-room classroom expansion at Hardy Elementary School.
They've done everything they can to squeeze every inch of space out of that cafeteria, and I don't think they could fit one more chair in there at this point.
One person in favor, wanting better control of the growth that is fueling the school's increased numbers.
There's nothing you can do about it, as long as we don't smarten up in this body and start making the recommendations that need to be done.
The funding of school projects easily passing. When it came time to talk about the town's $150 million operating budget in Session 5, there were those who took a more sunny outlook at the Financial Committee's prediction of needing a tax override by 2020.
Which needs to be taken, I believe, with a grain of salt. Because I think that we do a lot better in this town than we give ourselves credit for.
And once you start getting into that deficit model, and this whole budget is growing at a certain level, and the revenues are not, it just starts eating through that money very, very quickly. You see what the state budget is going in now with a significant deficit. If that starts cutting in our local aid, that's really, and that's not in here. Let's emphasize that's enough. That's not in here.
The final act of town meeting, resolving to become a sanctuary town, and a non-binding resolution promising that undocumented immigrants can fully and safely participate in the civic and economic life of the town, unless doing something else illegal. Town meeting allowing one speaker for and one against.
Unchecked illegal immigration is an economic issue that costs taxpayers money to support public safety and health initiatives, and dramatically increases costs to Arlington schools. Your freely taken oath does not afford you the luxury to vote in a manner that feels good.
It is an affirmation by this body of principles of fairness to be extended to all our residents. When our voices join as one in the final crescendo, saluting the land of the free and the home of the brave, we publicly remind ourselves and our constituents why we are here and what draws us together.
Well, a lot of interesting items on the warrant for town meeting, and for people who follow it, it really is decisions being made for the town for the future regarding budgets and policies.
Yes, and you can watch the full town meeting or past town meetings at ACMi.tv online.
Well, a local university is reeling after hackers published sensitive financial documents. How safe is anyone's information?
And keeping Arlington's tree canopy green and healthy. That and more when we come back. In a week when global ransomware attacks compromised hundreds of thousands of computers around the world, a local institution suffered its own security breach. Tufts University in Medford was the target of an attack exposing the school's financial information. Data security threats are something we're all thinking about. APN's Zach Merchant takes a look at this latest local hack.
This could be tip of the iceberg. The threat is cyber attack, and the local target this time is Tufts University. In early May, an anonymous organization calling itself TuftsLeaks acquired and released confidential financial documents in a WikiLeaks-style data dump. The documents included detailed budget information and the salaries of most faculty and staff at the university's flagship campus in Medford. The website hosting the documents has been taken down, and the university administration is working hard to track down those responsible. In a statement, Executive Director of Public Relations Patrick Collins said that, quote, Tufts University Police Department is working with state and federal law enforcement officials to aggressively investigate this incident and determine how this information was obtained and posted. Additionally, our information technology team is reviewing the incident and the data to determine how the information was obtained and, based on its findings, will take additional measures to mitigate the risks of future data exposure or loss. So far, at least, those efforts haven't been all that successful. Collins tells me that the school doesn't know who is responsible for the attack or even how they did it. Cybersecurity expert Steve Weissman tells me that that's at least in part because these hackers were pretty good.
They were really good. From what I've managed to find, they covered their tracks well, and good hackers will do that. They will bounce around the attacks from places around the globe to make it difficult to trace. They also had done their work as far as knowing once it was going to be taken down. They had access to other social media to be able to put it up, and covered tracks there as well. So here again, we don't admire the work they're doing, but they're doing it well.
Collins' statement continued. The school's review, quote, to date has not found any social security numbers included in the files that had been posted to the site. Although no personal information was compromised, the data breach could have a big effect on salary and budget negotiations and the university's public image. In a statement to the school newspaper, the Tufts Daily, the organization behind the attacks justified its actions, saying, quote, we deserve to know where our money is going, implying that the hackers may be students or alumni. According to Weissman, a breach that seeks only to share information, not to make money, is almost unheard of. The possibility for more schools to fall victim to more data breaches of all kinds, however, is high.
It amazes me that institutions of higher learning are as stupid as really they are. They will keep data that they don't need. They will not encrypt data. They will not segregate data. I hope this is a wake-up call, but it's the little Dutch boy putting his finger in the dike, but there are holes coming out everywhere, and there's just a lot of water.
The organization behind the attacks has promised more leaks to come, but at least so far, nothing new has been released, leading some to wonder whether the university's community-wide emails threatening state and federal law enforcement investigations have scared off TuftsLeaks. One thing is for sure, in that a week where global ransomware attacks have rocked countries around the world, this kind of thing happens right here in our own backyards too. For Arlington Public News, I'm Zach Merchant.
Security experts recommend we don't ignore those annoying update reminders that pop up on our computer screens. Many of the fixes are designed to increase security as soon as issues are found.
Just in time for Memorial Day, Arlington can take pride in a new designation, Purple Heart Community. The Purple Heart is awarded to service members injured in battle. Veteran Services Director Jeff Junglow appeared before the selectmen this week to announce Arlington's Purple Heart designation and Mass Ave as a Purple Heart street.
We are pleased to have a combat veteran with us, Mr. Katsos, who is a Purple Heart recipient. In addition to Mr. Katsos being here, we have Mary DeLille here and Joe and Joan Connors, who are also Gold Star parents. So that's very nice. Tonight, we'll be reading the proclamation declaring Arlington a Purple Heart community and designating Massachusetts Avenue a Purple Heart Avenue. So to go with that designation for Mass Ave, we have these signs that we'll be posting along Mass Ave. So I guess we'll turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Junglow. Arlington appreciates the sacrifices of our Purple Heart recipients made in defending our freedoms and believe it is important that we acknowledge them for their courage and sacrifices and show them the honor and support they have earned. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the members of the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Arlington, Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim the Town of Arlington as a Purple Heart community and designate Massachusetts Avenue as its honorary Purple Heart Avenue. We encourage all residents to show their appreciation for the sacrifices that our Purple Heart recipients have made in defending our freedoms, to acknowledge their courage, and to show them the honor and support they have earned. Thank you.
You know, what a great moment for Arlington vets. You are invited to honor servicemen and women at the annual Memorial Day ceremonies sponsored by the Arlington Department of Veteran Services. Events begin at Arlington Town Hall on Monday, May 29th at 9:30 a.m. The Director of Navy Medicine East, Rear Admiral Louis Tripoli, will be the keynote speaker. After a town hall ceremony, activities moved to the Mount Pleasant Cemetery for wreath-laying ceremonies at each of the veteran burial lots.
Well, last year's Memorial Day event was a great tribute. It was actually the first time that it was held in Town Hall and having such esteemed speakers as Rear Admiral. So really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it's quite a privilege for Arlington, so I'm looking forward to it as well.
Well, how the Alewife Herring Run is going high-tech.
And tracking the health of Arlington's tree canopy. That and more when we come back.
Building and maintaining a healthy tree canopy is important to the ecological and physical health of a community. Here in Arlington, tree warden Tim LaCuerva's responsibilities include surveying the health of existing trees, planting new trees, and building a tree inventory program. APN's Corrales Placencia takes us on the road with LaCuerva.
The request was they weren't too sure how it was looking, how the health of the tree was. So.
After coming on board in 2016 under Arlington's Natural Resources Division, tree warden Tim LaCuerva has been busy taking stock of the town's trees and their health.
You look for dead wood, the balance of the tree. You can see that there's the utilities had come in and they had pruned the canopy away from the lines. The top line, that's the primary, and that's the utilities' responsibility to make sure that those lines are clear.
As part of a tree inspection, LaCuerva measures the trunk circumference to add to the town's database.
So if it's 20 inches to 21, we'll call it about 21 inches. And all that will go down in our database system, and I'll respond to the resident, let them know that this is what we're going to do with the pruning, and then that request will go off to the actual Arlington Forestry Department, and they'll come out here and schedule the work and take care of the work.
Arlington resident Robert Layton asked about the large tree after he wondered if it was an invasive one.
I was just wondering about the Chinese elm.
Sure. Yep. So there are certain elm trees. So we have trees that are native and non-native, and then there's invasive and non-invasive. So trees that are native, they could be invasive,
yep,
and vice versa. So other trees that are non-native, they could be invasive or non.
One common invasive species found in Arlington is the Norway maple, like this one. Even though it's invasive, if it's not causing issues with its surroundings, it's usually left alone.
Many trees in Arlington, when they decided to put the trees in, at that point in time, they thought they were really urban tolerant trees, so they planted many of these trees. So if the tree is hazardous, there's holes in it, fruiting structures, decline in the canopy, dead, we'll remove those plants. So for instance, this large elm tree underneath these overhead utilities, this is a spot where I would not plant a large tree like this, just because you can see that the problem it is with the overhead utilities. So we'll be planting a smaller tree species that only gets about 20 to 30 feet in total height.
When new trees are planted, LaCuerva chooses the most appropriate species, preferring native plants that will fit with the space. The smaller specimens need special care to ensure their health and growth over time.
We accompany them here with these gator bags, and they hold about 22 gallons of water. So we ask our residents to come and help us fill the gator bags, just to keep the trees alive. We're in a 5-year drought, last year being historic, and so it's really important that trees get about a gallon per week per inch. So for instance, this here is about, almost 2 inches, so this plant will require about 20 gallons per week.
From removal to replacement, a plan has to be in place if a resident wants to replace a tree. Size and species must always be taken into consideration.
So if a builder wants to expand 50% or more and wanted to remove trees in that setback area that are 10-inch DBH or larger, they'll have to come up with a replacement plan. So for instance, you couldn't cut down a big oak tree and replace it with a small little cute little Japanese maple, which is nice, but it's going to be a native tree, could be an oak tree, could be a maple tree that's going to get 50 feet or larger, just to continue that coverage for the canopy.
And what will Arlington's tree canopy look like in the future?
We'll be planting about 30 ginkgos this year. So we have ginkgo trees from other parts of the world, other cherry trees, so flowering trees, not necessarily from here, but non-aggressive and won't be a nuisance.
Corrales Placencia, Arlington Public News.
Well, sounds like a much-needed plan. Arlington's Forestry Division and the Arlington Tree Committee have received a $15,000 grant to complete the inventory of public street trees, affecting nearly 100 miles of town roads. Volunteers and interns will collect information on the diameter, species, health, and precise location of existing trees and identify possible planting sites. The information gathered will help create a long-term forestry management team.
Alewife Station, Alewife Brook. The name alewife pops up all over Arlington. But did you know that an alewife is actually a fish? Right now, more than 60,000 of them are making their annual migration from the ocean waters around Boston up the Mystic River and into the Mystic Lakes. The Mystic Watershed Association has been supporting their run for years, and increased numbers mean their work is paying off.
So in both 2015 and 2016, there were nearly 500,000 river herring that passed into the upper Mystic Lake, which represents one of the top herring migrations in the state.
If you go around coastal Massachusetts, it's mostly small brooks into ponds, and so that's why they were largely dominated with alewife, and everybody talks about alewife, and the blueback kind of gets second. Here on the Mystic, there was a restoration project about 6 or 7 years ago where the old dam here was taken down. There was no fish ladder on that dam.
In the 2000s, we had volunteers associated with the Medford Boat Club as well as the Watershed Association and just the community at large that helped out at what was known as the Bucket Brigade. And this was typically a Saturday in May where volunteers came to the Mystic Lakes Dam and filled nets and buckets with river herring and literally hoisted them up and over the dam to seed the upper Mystic Lake with these herring.
It was replaced by DCR with this new dam. They built a state-of-the-art fishway, 4-foot denial fishway. They built an eel ramp, and we're seeing the run just increase year after year. So 2012 was the first year they got up here. 2015, we started seeing fish return, and the numbers just keep going up every year.
And so in 2012, in partnership with the state, the Division of Marine Fisheries, as well as the Department of Conservation and Recreation, we were able to launch a new program called the Herring Monitoring Program. This program uses volunteers, approximately 80 to 100 volunteers, to track the herring migration as a citizen science project. And so each volunteer is assigned a 1-hour block of time each week to come and count for 10 minutes at a time. That data is then shared with the Division of Marine Fisheries, and it's an amazing wildlife migration that's going on in people's backyards. And so we wanted to really bring this to many, many more people. And so to expand upon that, we used technology as the obvious next step, and we installed an underwater video camera here at the Mystic Lakes Dam. The camera is motion censored though, so when a fish passes, it triggers it, and it'll go for 4 seconds after the motion is detected too. So the video clips are usually no more than a minute. A lot of times they're more like 20 seconds long, and you can see, 1-2 fish, or you might see like 90 in 1 minute. It's really pretty impressive. So we're essentially streaming the migration into many more households, and we're also working directly with schools to help the teachers implement curriculum that's related to the herring migration and the Mystic River. We have a wonderful intern, Emma, who is going into the schools to engage with the students directly.
Some of the students have, when I ask them if they've ever been to the Mystic, they mention really different things, which I think is reflective of what the watershed is like. So some of them, their first reaction is gross. And others, their first reaction is, oh, that's where I swim in the summertime. So I think that's important for us to keep in mind when we are trying to communicate to students, is that they have really different experiences with the watershed. The students have usually never seen these fish. They don't usually know that they migrate in these waters. Some of them are aware of the predators of these fish, so they've eaten tuna or they've eaten bass, but the river herring are usually unseen in their sort of imaginations.
They're important for our ecosystems, both in freshwater, estuaries, true marine ecosystems. They're getting eaten by everything from raccoons to bluefin tuna. So the birds, the mammals, all the fish, turtles. Yeah, you see snapping turtles eating these all the time. River herring are probably somewhere in the 70 to 85%, 65 to 85% of them come back to where they were born. I always say with river herring that it's not about intelligence, it's about persistence. They are just very, very persistent animals, and it's very great to watch. So they'll really go over a lot of hurdles, these little silver fish. And it's a great struggle to watch, and it's really, for me, there's a lot of admiration for them.
If you'd like to join the online count, visit mysticherring.org. To volunteer in person in the herring count or to find out about upcoming projects, visit mysticriver.org.
Well, thank goodness it finally feels like spring is here to stay. So it's time to fill up the tires, dust off your helmet, and join the annual Bike Arlington Tour on Sunday, May 21st. This family-friendly ride is organized by the Arlington Bicycle Advisory Committee and is part of the Bay State Bike Week celebration. Meet fellow riders at Herd Field behind Trader Joe's in Arlington Heights at 9:30. Then head to Great Meadows, go on to Lexington Community Farm where you can visit the goat yard, and finish up at the Old Straw Mill in Arlington Heights. The mill will be open to the public with special events and exhibits. The Bike Arlington Tour is free, helmets are required, and don't forget to bring a drink. For more information, visit abac.arlington.ma.us.
And now that spring is here, cats and dogs are spending a lot more time outdoors. Make sure your pet is protected. Bring your four-legged friend to the rabies clinic on June 1st from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Ed Burns Arena. It's convenient and affordable. Vaccinations are just $10 per animal. And for extra convenience, you can license your dog at the same time. For more information, see the news section at arlingtonma.gov. Well, thank you for joining us here at Arlington Public News as we explore events and issues affecting Arlington. Check out extended interviews and our latest segments on the web at news.acmi.tv.
And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Arlington Public. If you'd like to get involved with Arlington Public News and ACMi, email us at news@acmi.tv or stop by the studio at 85 Park Ave.
I'm Paul Werlin.
And I'm Brenda Mahoney. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.